I think it should just be part of our postpartum care.
So can you be an OB?
For real.
If they would listen, I will keep spouting,
reiterating.
Welcome to Pelvic POV with your hosts and doctors of physical therapy, Amanda Neary and Hannah Meyer. Hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Pelvic POV.
Where you're freaks for us and we're freaks for your pelvis, baby.
Good intro.
Yes, thank
Today,
you.
We are super excited about our topic. Hannah, you want to tell us about what we're doing?
Yeah, guys, we have another guest on our podcast to my left. All right. This is Ashley Flores. She is a licensed acupuncturist and she owns her own private practice, acupuncture practice in West Loop, and she specializes in fertility and women's health. The way we met was because the Pelvic Institute was just starting up and I was doing marketing. I didn't really have like a lot of patients at the time, so I was trying to meet like some other practitioners in the area, and I was going door to door passing out business cards, and I emailed Ashley and we just chatted women's health, and then we've had this great connection ever since.
That's right.
On top of acupuncture, Ashley is also nationally certified in Chinese herbal medicine and shiatsu therapy. And Ashley, why don't you dive a little bit more into your education for us?
Great. Well, I have both a master's and a doctorate in traditional Chinese medicine, which includes acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine diagnosis and theory, herbal medicine, and lifestyle therapy.
Nice. Very cool. I'm so excited for this episode. We have so many patients either ask us about acupuncture or ask us where to go next after they see us. And it's something we refer to a lot, but we don't have the lingo and like we don't actually know how to describe it. So would you be able to just dive deeper into what acupuncture actually is? And maybe we can start there.
For sure. Well, the simple answer is that acupuncture is using very thin needles placed in points around the body for initiating a healing response. The more complicated answer is that we use pattern differentiation based on Chinese medicine theory to make an understanding of our patient's patterns and constitution, and then use the needles to help balance out those patterns.
Nice. Yeah, because we do dry needling in our clinic, and the number one question that people ask us when they come in is like, oh, is this acupuncture?
Right.
And I'm like, my like best way I can say is like, acupuncture is more of like an Eastern medicine approach.
Yeah.
And this is more like trigger point releasing a specific muscle. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. There's a lot, I think there's some overlap between, because when I was in school, dry needling didn't really exist yet, but we just called it orthopedic or trigger point acupuncture. And so like that's a part of what we do. And like that's the piece that's more based on Western anatomy and physiology. But then there's also a more energetic approach where we're looking at people's patterns from that Chinese medicine perspective and then using the points according to their energetic functions.
Gotcha. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into specifically Eastern medicine? Because I know you have your history. Tell us a little bit about like your history and how you came to be. Because I was reading all about you on your website before, but I want you to talk about yourself. Yeah. I love talking about myself, so you take it away. I won't steal it from you.
Sure does.
So I was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, when I was 22. And at the time, I was very lucky to even get that diagnosis because a lot of people struggle to figure out what's going on. I had irregular cycles. I had terrible acne. I struggled with like energy and mood. And luckily, I was hooked up to an endocrinologist who helped me figure out what was going on.
Okay.
But the solution that was offered was just take birth control forever.
That is always the number one thing. It's always birth control. Every time. I have so many people that don't want to go on birth control. It's like, is there any other option?
Are there any other options? That was exactly what I was left with. Like, I felt terrible on birth control. I didn't want to go back on birth control. And the other piece of that was they told me I'd probably not be able to get pregnant with children and to come back for some IVF when I was ready.
Oh my gosh.
And that was my question was, aren't there any other solutions? Isn't there anything else we can do? And I started doing research and reading about it and trying to figure out what I could do. And one of the most important steps on my journey was connecting with an acupuncturist who treated me and helped me understand what was going on and what I could do to correct it.
Okay.
And so I received acupuncture treatment. I found it to be amazing. And I was like, I want to do this. I want to help other people who are struggling with women's health conditions find a better way than just taking the pill and coming back for IVF when they're ready.
And then when you go off the pill, it's like, now what? This is just treating the symptoms, but can we like figure out how to like manage this like long term without being connected to this medication?
Yeah. And a lot of people don't feel great when they're on the pill. And so it's not a great solution
you get
for
other
them.
side effects.
Yeah.
I've been on birth control my entire life.
Yeah.
I like am terrified to go off of it.
I went off a year ago, almost to the day.
Really?
And I finally feel like my body
like
has adjusted and regulated.
Yeah.
But it was because of like, I had these hormonal imbalances and I was like, I don't want to be on this anymore.
Okay. This is actually what I want to talk about next. So I'm like jumping around, but specifically how acupuncture addresses the hormonal component then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit hard to explain because we've got this Western perspective that like you have glands, they release hormones. And so what are we going to do to make that physiology change?
Yeah.
But with acupuncture, we're looking at who the people are more than we're looking at what is going on from that Western understanding.
Okay.
So I may give one person who's got terrible PMS symptoms. They're moody, they can't function, they can't sleep, they're getting hot flashes. That person, another person with very similar symptoms, may end up with very different treatments.
Okay.
Based on their constitution and what kind of patterns we find from that Chinese medicine perspective. So some people have more of a weakness and they need to be nourished and supported, and other people have more of a stagnation where we need to move things and circulate things so that they can function properly.
Okay. How do you kind of like figure, is it from your evaluation, like you talk with the patient beforehand and then you kind of find that route, I guess?
Yeah. So we ask a lot of questions.
I remember I did a free evaluation with you.
Yeah.
So yes, I kind of know how like your goes, but you can talk about it.
Yeah. So I ask about everything. I want to know if you're pooping, if you're sleeping, how your stress level is. And so I ask a lot of questions. I have people fill out a pretty long form to get an idea of what their constitution is like.
Okay.
And then really importantly, bring in some of the Chinese medicine diagnostic tools, which are feeling pulses on the wrist and feeling the abdomen, and then feeling points on the body to see where the clients have more pain with pressure, where they feel tight, where they're holding tension.
Okay.
And that helps me understand their patterns.
Gotcha. Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to like jump straight into that because I think that was an episode we talked about. We were like, we would love to have someone come on here and like talk about like differences in hormones and like your cycle. Like, do you change the treatment ever depending on like the patient's cycle?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, like talking about PMS again.
Yeah.
Like I have a couple of people who really need nourishment, but also tend to get really stuck at that like PMS phase. And so I'll have them alternate between treatments and like herbal formulas.
Okay.
So they'll do something that's more nourishing treatment during their follicular phase. And then once they start to get that sort of angry, stuck feeling, we'll switch to something that's more moving and circulating.
Okay. So then so we're talking a lot about acupuncture. So how did you get into like specifically more herbalism as well, and then want to combine those two components?
Yeah. So traditional Chinese medicine includes several branches, both acupuncture and herbal medicine. Those were just part of the degree program that I took. I wasn't actually that interested in herbs when I started acupuncture school, but through experiencing them and working with them, I think they are a vital component of working with Chinese medicine.
Yeah, it's almost like a home exercise program. It's like, here, you can come in here for your acupuncture. Make sure you take your herbs. And you give like a frequency of use or whatever, prescription almost of like when to take the herbs.
Yeah. So I give almost everyone custom herbal tinctures.
Which that herb one you made me, I'm not going to lie, that was hard to get down. But I diluted it with water and then it helped. It was good.
There you go.
Yeah.
They don't taste good.
Yeah.
We do not.
It's medicine.
It is medicine.
Yeah. Tastes good. Can you, just for people listening that have no idea, how long is acupuncture school? Because I've been told it's a 4-year degree. Right?
It is.
So that, I think people ask us all the time, like, how is it different from dry needling? And I'm like, dry needling is one tiny modality that we add to our toolkit as physical therapists. So like, we're going to school to study like anatomy, physiology, working on the musculoskeletal system. That's what we're doing. This is just a modality. Acupuncture is an entirely different world. You're approaching the entire body differently. It's a 4-year degree in its own. So that's where I'm like, if you have questions about it, I am not the person to ask. There's so much more to this that I can't explain that I don't understand because that's not what I went to school for. And that's why I just want to like make sure people realize like how impressive it is in its own right. And it's like very different from what we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole Eastern medicine approach. I feel like in the States, we get very stuck in the Western medicine mindset. We're like, this is the way, this is the best way. It must be the best way. It's the United States. This is how we do it here. But it's like, no, especially with like people with chronic pain conditions, they get to a point where like, there has to be something else we can do. And then they'll start looking at like the Eastern medicine approach too. I feel like we should start encompassing both like right from the get-go. And like, you might not be living with pain for this long or whatever it is your symptoms are. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We're just definitely very stuck in the US, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people are, I guess. Not us. Looking.
We're learning. We're picking stuff up. I have a question because a lot of the manual therapy that we do, I know that I have kind of switched my mindset on it. And I think Hannah describes it similarly to how I do, that we're always working on the central nervous system, right? When we do manual therapy, whether it's a myofascial trigger point release, we're trying to like rewire those neural pathways rather than like I'm releasing this muscle at the source of that pain, because that's not really what we're even doing.
Right.
And I'm curious how you describe like how acupuncture works, because I know you're like working along meridians and different like body lines.
Yeah.
Is it all kind of still coming from that central nervous system? Are you finding the points and like treating them where they're at, or is it all working systematically?
I think there's a lot of disagreement amongst researchers about exactly how acupuncture is working. And there's evidence for it working through a number of different pathways. My personal theory is that it kind of works through all of those pathways, kind of depending on what we're working on and how we're using the points. And so I think that there's a lot that is happening at the level of the nervous system. I think one of the biggest reasons acupuncture works so well for so many different kinds of conditions is because it helps regulate the nervous system and help people switch from fight or flight into like that rest, digest, heal. And so
we
I think
use these same words in our like when we explain things. I love it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think most people who've had an acupuncture session know that they get into sort of this like half asleep, half awake, like really relaxed state that sometimes they haven't experienced for many years.
It's like a meditative state.
Yeah, it is like a meditative state. Yeah. It's almost like being sort of in a trance or like half asleep. I think that's a big part of how it's helping people to heal, is it's retraining their body to learn how to switch into that, their nervous system switch into that rest, digest, heal mode.
Our research is so shoddy on like what manual therapy is actually doing.
Right.
And there's now all these like Instagram arguments like no physical therapist should be touching the body. You should only be doing exercise. And we're like,
I hate that.
That is just not like what makes us PTs then if we're not going to touch the body.
I think that's also like a corporate standpoint. They'll kind of like put that on you and be like, we're not massage therapists, blah, blah, blah. It's like, this is a part of the healing process though. Like this is like we went to PT school. We took a whole course on manual therapy, musculoskeletal, MSK.
And I feel like it always resonates the best when I'm describing it as like we are working on your nervous system and we're helping to regulate the body. And that's where you feel your body feels safe enough to release that trigger point. Then like, it's doing the work. We're just facilitating that with you. So
and it feels good. It feels good. If you're in chronic pain, right? You want to find some relief.
I mean, we could have a whole conversation about like, if you think it works, it's going to work. That's like a whole nother topic.
Totally.
And the importance of touch as like part of the healing process.
100%. Oh, this brings us to a good little question.
Another sidebar.
Does acupuncture hurt?
That is a great question.
Yes. Because
yes
people are terrified of needles.
No. So like we talked a little bit about using needles in different ways. And when we're using needles in more of a dry needling style where we're trying to release trigger points, that can hurt.
That hurts.
No, I was telling, we were like doing a mock trial of dry needling in our course.
Yeah.
And they were like, what would you tell your patient? And I was like, if they were like, does this hurt? I'd be like, it's uncomfortable. And they're like, no, don't gaslight your patient.
No.
Like,
it hurts.
It hurts
to hurt.
Yeah, I suck at getting dry needled. Acupuncture, though, was not like...
Acupuncture is lovely.
The session I did with you, it was very relaxing and good. But you can chat about it.
Yeah. So most of what I do with my patients is very painless, very comfortable. And so what I tell people is that they might feel a little pinch when we first place the needle, just from the point of the needle being placed. And then it can feel a little bit achy, or sometimes it feels like there's something kind of moving around in that area, but it should be very comfortable. It shouldn't feel sharp. It shouldn't feel painful. And so I always want to adjust things if they are uncomfortable. So people might experience a little bit of discomfort in their session when the needles are being placed, but usually it's pretty transient and it's pretty mild. And then once needles are in place, I typically let my clients rest for about 20 to 30 minutes with needles. And at that point, they should have zero pain. They should be very comfortable.
And it's almost like a mind-body connection because it's like you can't feel the needles in when they're in, but it's like at the same time you can
kind of
like
feel
you're
their
focusing
presence.
your energy towards that area where the needles are.
Yeah.
So let's dive in specifically to
fertility.
I'm thinking fertility. That's what I was thinking. Going into fertility. That's the
Let's
big
get
one.
into the meat of it. Okay, so
you take it, Amanda.
Taking it away. I want to hear about, because obviously we treat pelvic health. So we get patients with fertility issues that have been doing IVF, that are currently pregnant. Can you talk a little bit about how acupuncture supports that patient population and what you're doing with those patients as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple different patient populations there. Specifically thinking about fertility, like number one, I'm trying to understand why they're not getting pregnant now. And that's true for both IVF clients and for people who are trying to conceive naturally. And so some of that is just kind of diving into like their cycle. Are they ovulating? Like what do their hormone levels look like? And trying to understand what patterns are happening from the Western perspective. And then I'm always diving into what are their patterns from the Eastern perspective.
Okay.
And so trying to understand like, are they needing more nourishment? And so like often people will have a really short follicular phase, or they'll have poor egg quality in an IVF cycle. And for those clients, we're tending to lean towards things that are going to bring more nourishment to the follicles, bring more like support to their body, as opposed to like someone who's struggling to conceive from endometriosis. And then we're thinking more about the implantation phase and the inflammation and the poor circulation that goes along with having endometriosis. And for those clients, we're using more herbs that will help to break up that inflammation, break up some of the stuck tissues and the scar tissue, and help clear things out so that their uterine lining can function better and have a healthy implantation. So again, like all about patterns and looking at the person and looking at their symptoms and what's showing up in their fertility specifically.
Okay.
When we're looking at pregnancy, I work with a lot of people who end up with back pain, hip pain, pelvic pain in pregnancy. And again, we're looking often for pain. I'm looking at channel pathways. So that's sort of like the lines that connect all the different areas of the body, and sort of feeling along those lines for where there's disruption in that flow, or finding areas that help to balance each other.
Okay.
So for example, like if someone has a hip pain and I can press on their hip and feel where exactly is that pain, and I can kind of follow down the channel, try a couple of things, and we'll press on those points and see what relieves that hip pain. And then that's where we'll place the needle to help balance out.
It's like a referral point almost.
Yeah, it's very similar to referral patterns, but like thinking about it kind of energetically as opposed to thinking about it from a Western perspective.
Or something like that. Okay,
but very similar idea, and using like palpation and sort of testing theories to see what works.
Okay, cool.
Very cool.
And then what about specifically with like, let's say you have someone going through IVF.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Are they coming to you before they do IVF, during, both?
Ideally both.
Okay.
You know, in an ideal world, I would love to work with someone for 3 months
before they
start their IVF cycle.
Okay.
We don't always get that much time, but whatever we get can be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And typically for someone who's preparing for IVF, that 3 months gives us time to work on their constitution and their patterns and sort of like make sure the circulation is functioning well, make sure that their body is well nourished heading into that cycle. And then when we get into the IVF cycle, I'm drawing a lot more from the research that's been done on acupuncture and incorporating some of those protocols into what I'm doing in the treatments. So when somebody's using stimulation medications to stimulate follicle growth, I am having them come in 2 to 3 times a week, and we're doing electroacupuncture, which is including attaching a small electrical current to some of the needles, and that has been shown to improve blood flow to the uterus and ovaries, and that just brings more nourishment to the developing follicles during that part of IVF.
Okay.
Cool. Also, that feels so good. I've had that done.
It does.
It's like my favorite. It's like my favorite thing to have done.
I've never had it done.
It's like a little buzz.
Now I'm intrigued. It's like the e-stim is it's on the needles. It's not like the TENS pads on the skin, or
it's
like
similar to the TENS pads, but it connects to the needles, and so you kind of feel it a little bit deeper. But it's still really mild, like the TENS, and just feels like a little tingly, buzzy.
Yeah.
So fun.
It's fun.
And then it's totally safe to do like during IVF acupuncture.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think most, you know, there's enough solid research on using acupuncture with IVF that like I have never had a physician say like, no, I don't want you to do this. They're very encouraging their clients to use the acupuncture during the IVF cycle.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great.
It is.
Yeah. That more people are noticing that too and saying it.
There are so many people that just do IVF and don't do anything else alongside of it. And I think that would be such a great, I wish that could be just like a normal, you know how we're always like, I wish doctors would just be like, go to pelvic floor PT, like right away. I wish they could do the same thing. Like,
could
go to acupuncture.
So many problems.
At least if you just like recommend it too, and then people can have it on their radar, you know, it's like an option. So interesting. And IVF is crazy world.
We already know the answer, but it is 100% safe during pregnancy as well.
Absolutely. Yes. I definitely go to somebody who is well trained and has gone to school for acupuncture, because I know that there are some other professions that can use acupuncture without a lot of training. I definitely recommend working with a licensed acupuncturist in pregnancy.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, someone that specializes specifically in like women's health, fertility, even if you want that like bonus.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would want.
Yeah.
100%. So we've referred to each other a lot. So how do you kind of address like or like when are you looking at a patient and you're like, oh, maybe I'm thinking about co-treating with a pelvic floor physical therapist?
I mean, in an ideal world, I would love to have everyone just come to
yes, for real,
to both of us. But I know that's not realistic for most people. So like if I suspect that somebody needs internal work, I'm always going to refer them to you.
Yes.
If I have things that are feeling stuck and we're not getting them to change in the way that I would expect them to. Like, for example, a client with endometriosis, like we're getting some changes, but they still have terrible constipation, or like things just aren't resolving in the way I'd expect them to, then I'm going to ask them to come see you as well.
Yeah.
I tell every one of my pregnant clients that they should go for pelvic floor PT after they give birth. Like, I don't care if you have any symptoms or not, just go.
Or at least get like an evaluation or something.
Just get an evaluation. Like, I think it should just be part of our postpartum care.
So can you be an OB?
For real.
If they would listen, I will keep spouting,
Reiterating.
reiterating. So yeah, anyone who's pregnant, I'm telling them that this should be part of their postpartum recovery.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much overlap with like the clients that you have with like pelvic floor PT, whether it's like any like fertility, like pregnancy, like you said, like someone could be also having constipation or something like that. There's just so much overlap.
Did we talk about endometriosis?
I don't think we briefly
specifically
talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, because I know like it's another thing they throw birth control at that makes me mad.
Yes.
And that's what like our patients will come in with like PCOS, endometriosis, and that's always what they say. And it's like, this
birth control
helping, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know how you like would specifically tackle endometriosis. That's something that we just need more research on in general.
Yeah, we talked about more like the herbalism component with endometriosis. Yes. What about like the acupuncture component with endo?
Yeah, I mean, typically with endometriosis, I'm thinking about circulation and improving blood flow. And I'm also thinking a lot about the immune system and like what's triggering that immune system to be so overreactive in endometriosis. So those are generally like, I'm always wanting to combine both the acupuncture and the herbs in those situations. But working a lot with blood flow, working a lot with circulation, the quality of the blood, and regulating the immune system.
Do you ever see people after surgeries, like after endometriosis surgeries?
Yeah.
Do you find it like, I mean, I'm sure you do find it helpful. I'm like, do you find it helpful? Of course you do.
I love working with surgical recovery because we can help scars to heal better.
Yeah, do you do like the fascial needling ever? Or what does the scar work look like?
Yeah. So like once the scar is like, I suppose like 6 weeks, pretty solid, I'll approach it two ways. One is sort of like working away from the scar. So like finding where the scar feels painful with pressure. So those are the areas that are not healing as well. The other approach we take with scars is working directly with the scar. So like needling around the scar. And just to bring something else into the conversation, there's a technique called moxa that I love for scars, which is a warming technique using mugwort herb that smolders over the point and warms it. It's really good for like softening tissue that is hard and like relaxing and bringing more blood flow to a tiny area.
Okay. Heck yeah.
That's awesome.
I've heard of mugwort a lot actually, but I don't know really anything about mugwort. I don't know a lot about herbs. I really want to get into herbs.
Like this is so cool. I just like love learning new things.
Yes,
it's awesome.
Well, also
school.
I threw in like an extra question, the bonus at the end.
Yeah,
kind of was like fill this out for me because I've been getting sick.
Oh no!
So like with like flu season and stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm just like I hate getting sick. I'm sure no one likes getting sick, but I want to just like find like a natural like routine with like herbs to see if I can help like my immune system because I just feel like when I get sick, I'm down bad and I'm awful with it. Should we talk about that now?
I feel like you want.
So let's do it.
I really want to know.
Let's take care of Hannah.
Yes, take care of me really quick. And you know what? It's flu season, you guys.
Everybody needs this. Yeah.
Yes. So what would you suggest for like immune support from like an herbalism perspective?
Yeah. So I have some things that I recommend to my clients all the time. I recommend like when flu season starts, taking a vitamin C, a probiotic, and then some kind of medicinal mushroom. So I really like reishi, which helps to strengthen like the lung and the immune system, but it's also an adaptogen. So it has a calming effect. It is good for sleep. And so I feel like most of us need a little bit of support with sleep and stress. So reishi mushroom is a great one.
Do they have like a tea form of that? Like a reishi or
yes.
Right?
No,
reishi.
Reishi is a brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reishi is a brand. Reishi is a genre.
Is a mushroom.
Is a genetic form of a mushroom.
It is a species.
Like you've like red grape species.
Yeah.
Species.
Sunday, everyone. Bear with us.
Okay. So how would you like make how would you ingest that?
Reishi's pretty bitter. So you can get it in a capsule. You can get it in powders that some people like to mix it into like coffee or tea.
Okay.
I don't think it tastes very good, so I like to just get it down.
Like a pill form.
A capsule is probably the easiest way to get it in. Yeah. So I think those are really good for prevention. Those are things that you can take long term every day through the winter. And then I always tell people at the first sign of getting sick, that is the like when you can help the most. So like as soon as you wake up with that little bit of scratchy throat or that little bit of like something's, I feel like I'm coming down with something, do a really spicy ginger tea.
Okay.
And so you can either use a fresh ginger root that you grate into a cup of hot water, and you want to make it spicy enough that it makes you sweat a little bit.
Oh, yes. I can do that.
I love that.
I can handle that.
Yeah.
I love ginger too.
So ginger is super helpful. And then also elderberry.
I do elderberry.
Yeah.
I made you eat elderberry the other day.
Yeah, and then I had an elderberry shot from the store, and you know what? I didn't get sick.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was like, I need you for the podcast this week.
I was
Take this elderberry.
I just got back from Greece. I was on a friend's trip, and everyone in my friend group got sick on this trip. And I was like sharing a room with one of them, and I was like, I am gonna get sick when I get home if I'm not sick on the trip. So I get home, and I'm like, it was just jet lag, but I was like fatigued one day, and I was like, oh no, it's starting. And Hannah like made me an elderberry drink, and then I picked up another shot from the store. I didn't do the ginger, but I'm gonna do that next time.
Yeah, me too.
Get sick.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. So if you can get like the ginger and the elderberry started early, they can really help to shorten or keep it from getting all the way sick.
Elderberry has like really been gaining in popularity. I feel like it's in like every medicine now. It'll be like elderberry flavor or something like that.
Yeah.
What's like the history of elderberry? Do you know?
I mean, it's been a medicinal herb for a long time.
Okay.
But I do think it's gaining in popularity.
Yeah.
And I think like I keep an elderberry syrup or gummies like for my kids.
Okay.
Because they won't take and then I keep a tincture for the adults.
Do you think because I have elderberry gummies. Yeah. I am a child.
Fair enough.
But do you think it's better if you get like the liquid form, or does it matter? What would you recommend?
I don't want the sugar.
Yeah. My friend's mom that's a dentist was like, don't do gummies.
Yeah. But if it's the only way you'll take it, go for it.
Yeah.
Just brush your teeth.
I love my like Lemmy gummies, and then I'll like hit my elderberry.
Can I have another sidebar question?
Yeah.
Where do you source your supplements and medicinal herbs from?
Yeah.
We're linked.
Great question. I use a lot of different companies right now. So my Chinese herbal pharmacy, I maintain a tincture pharmacy. And so I have bottles of concentrated liquids that are preserved with a little bit of alcohol. So you've seen my big wall of herbs.
You sell these at your studio?
Yeah. So I've got a pharmacy that has so I can custom blend the herbs. And so some of those are in combinations and some of those are single herbs. And then I mix them into little bottles to give to clients. So those I order from a couple of different companies that are both US based, but sourcing herbs from China and being very careful about screening for pesticides, heavy metal toxicity, which is really important when importing herbs from China. So for tinctures, I use a couple of different companies that are doing really nice, careful work. And then for other supplements, I order a lot of things through Fullscript. I order a number of different things from Anima Mundi. I really like them. That's where I get my elderberry syrup from.
Okay.
I'm working with Gaia Herbs. I keep a pretty big pharmacy.
Could we like come to you and get herbs too if we wanted to? Or do you do that mainly for like clients?
I do it for my clients, but I am working on putting everything online. So I have a website that people can order from.
Oh yeah.
Oh, gorgeous.
I'll be your biggest supporter. I'm familiar with Fullscript. That's the only one I recognize because I work with functional medicine. And that's like pretty much what they all use around here.
Yeah. It's a good company.
Yeah.
They have a lot of things that I need. So
adaptogens there.
There you go.
Do you have a local store in Chicago that has good stuff other than your store?
Yeah.
Do you go somewhere to like put stuff together from?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I think that everyone has access to Whole Foods, so there's a lot of they do.
They do have like products. A little bit of
I know how to navigate though. It's so broad.
The first time I went to Whole Foods, like every Whole Foods is so different. And like the first time I went to this Whole Foods, it took me probably like 2 hours to get like my normal groceries because you just can't find anything.
Yeah. They don't lay them out the same.
No, it's different everywhere.
You have to memorize each
it's like a map. It's like some elite grocery shopping experience.
Great.
It's
That's
awesome.
what we all want.
Oh, that's actually what the herbs, there's some herbs that you can't use during pregnancy, right? Isn't mugwort one of them? Or no?
It depends.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like there's layers to this.
Yeah. So herbs there's such a huge variety of, like a huge range that we're talking about when we're talking about herbs. We're talking about ginger and turmeric that you use in your cooking. Like those are herbs. But we're also talking about some plant substances that can be very strong. So on the one hand, I think herbal medicine is like the best kitchen medicine because it's accessible to a lot of people, and people have things in their house and in their spice drawers that they can use for medicine. But on the other end of the spectrum, some herbs can be quite potent and really should not be used unless you have somebody who's helping you figure out what's appropriate for you. And I think pregnancy is one of those situations where it's probably best to work with somebody who's really trained in using herbs for pregnancy.
Okay.
That's good to know. I feel like I just started maybe 3 years ago disclosing the supplements I take to my providers when they're like, are you on any medications? And I'm like, no, nothing. And then meanwhile, I have this like 9-pill regimen from my functional medicine team. And I'm like, I should really be telling them about
honestly,
all of these.
Yeah.
They're very strong, and like they can interact with different medications, different conditions and all of that.
Yeah.
It's very cool. But yeah, disclose those.
Yeah. I understand why people are hesitant because they don't want to get judged by their other providers or be told to stop everything because they don't want to.
Yeah.
But I really think that people need to start opening up and sharing what they're doing, if for no other reason, so that their doctors start to understand that people want alternatives and actually are getting benefits from those alternatives.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like the root cause approach is a very cool concept that's like coming to Western medicine, where it's like, oh, we can actually like see what's going on and try to prevent things rather than just like waiting till it's bad and treating that.
Yeah.
Yes. Stoked on that.
I really want to talk about ashwagandha now.
Okay, yeah. Let's
I
talk
feel
about
like it's
ashwagandha.
also trending on TikTok because people will be like, oh, you went through this life-altering, what am I trying to say? You went through this life-altering experience. I'm just going to take ashwagandha so I can't feel anything. That's like the thing on, that's like, that's how people explain ashwagandha on TikTok. I swear. It's like when you take, it's like when you take ashwagandha and you're like numb.
But we need people like you on TikTok.
To like break to be like, no, this is how it is. So tell us a little bit about like ashwagandha.
I think ashwagandha is a great herb. It comes from Ayurveda, and so it's not a part of traditional Chinese medicine, but I started having a lot of people asking about it, and it's in the class of adaptogenic herbs. So these are herbs that help your body be more resilient and recover better from stress. So perfect for modern day. And ashwagandha, it's calming, but it's not sedating. So most people can take it during the day. They can take it in the evening.
I take it during the day. I take it in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people find that they're able to take it any time of day and that it doesn't make them feel sleepy or anything. But it helps people feel more resilient, and it makes people feel like, oh yeah, that was stressful, but I'm fine. Like it doesn't affect them quite as strongly. And I think, so I know that ashwagandha also can help to increase iron levels. And so I think of it for my clients that we would call like blood deficiency pattern in Chinese medicine. So people who tend to like have dry skin, they tend to like have dry nails, they tend to feel like dry and like a little bit dehydrated, or tend towards anemia. And I think that ashwagandha is a really perfect fit for people who have that kind of constitution.
Oh, wow. Are you taking ashwagandha yet?
Ashwagandha.
Wait, you are though.
It's in
Let Me Chill
prescriptions.
Okay.
But I have not taken it in a long time.
We take the Let Me Chill gummies.
Oh, you know what?
And it's in ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is in the Let Me Chill.
Some real
like, it's like a component in it. Yeah, not just like Kourtney Kardashian's brand. If it's something that makes you consistent with it, that's all that matters. It's just like how we say exercise. Like if you don't like running, don't make running your main form of exercise. If you like walking or you like dancing, do that. But if you like try to force yourself to run, you'll do it like once a month and you'll never exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally am really bad with taking like capsules, but like I can do like a syrup or like because I'm a child.
Gummy.
Or gummy. So I'm not a capsule girly.
Yeah.
Not a capsule girly.
What's the ear seed kit? What is that?
Oh yeah, I should have brought one because ear seeds, I think those work really well for self-care because they're like little circle stickers. They're tiny, like maybe a quarter of an inch with a tiny gold ball. And then there are a lot of different acupressure points on the outside of the ear. And so they can just be easily taped onto the different points of the ear. And so I send a lot of my clients home with these so that they can have them for 3 or 4 days, and then they can press on them and like keep getting results from the treatment. And then you can get little maps and kits that you can do it at home that help you find the right points, and those can be really helpful
because it could be like I've heard before, like at this ear piercing, what is this one, the tragus?
Yeah,
people will get that sometimes for migraines or something.
Yeah,
so that's like the same idea, like it's a pressure point, like an acupressure point.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But overall, I think we've got some good tips. Like, I think one good tip would be if you've gone through IVF or you've had like a failed experience with IVF and you're going through another round of IVF, why don't we try like adding acupuncture in and see if it could support you through this second, third, whatever round of IVF. For example, it's a great option for like during pregnancy for even pain management if you don't want to like take your Tylenol or whatever. If you don't want to take any medications, obviously, during pregnancy, then there's other forms of treatment that people can work towards other than just like the basic Western approach, or just being like, yep, you're pregnant, you're going to be in pain. So
I feel like as a pelvic floor therapist, there's few things that I like always mention to patients, and it's like Pilates and acupuncture. I'm like, I love this movement pattern for retraining your deep core. I love acupuncture for like resetting your nervous system, and then they can take it from there and like treat anything else too.
Yeah.
And I'm always telling people about it, and I'm like, I love acupuncture. You should try it. So this is so cool, and I'm so excited to be able to like refer people to this episode so they can hear more, and then send them over to you.
Yeah,
it's so nice to also have someone that like we refer to, because then we like, if they're okay with the, like disclosing information, then we can like kind of like put our remedies together and be like, okay, what are you thinking about this patient? Like then it will help you develop like your treatment plan, and then vice versa.
Yeah,
I love being really cool
to collaborate. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us how our listeners can find you if you're on social media, how you prefer to be contacted?
Website,
I'm sure
email,
they will want to know.
Definitely. My clinic website is forflowerswellness.com. I'm on Instagram sometimes at forflowerswellness. And those are the best ways to reach me.
Amazing.
And then her clinic is located.
Yeah. Clinic is located on the edge of West Loop and West Town at Monroe and Ashland.
Awesome.
So if you're a patient at the Pelvic Institute, she is a short walk from us.
That's right.
Which is great.
Absolutely.
Location.
Yeah. All right. We'll also post links to Ashley's website for Flowers Wellness, so you can go on there yourself, and we'll post her social media account. So make sure you're following us at Pelvic POV.
And follow our personal accounts at Hannah Meyer, Meyerr.
And Amanda Neary, PT. And is in November.
And is in nervous system regulation.
Stunning. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye, pelvic freaks.
Bye.